Welcome to the Dying Breed Podcast. I'm Caleb, and today we've got a really cool episode. We're going to be covering the butcher industry, the misconceptions in the butcher industry, the misunderstandings on where your meat comes from and how your meat's processed, and why going with a local shop is far better than going with a big corporation. So I have Hunter Fallis and Rydder Fallis with me today. They're brothers, no surprise there. You've been in the mobile slaughter business for around 3.5 years. Yep. And you've been in the butcher industry for 2.5.
Correct. Yes.
And you guys moved up here. Walk me through how did you have previous experience?
No previous experience. I was actually a prison guard in the state of California, and it was a great job. Paid really well, but the state of California was taking a turn that we didn't want to raise our family in, so we started looking for other alternatives, just a different job in general. I went to prison every day, even though I was allowed to go home. I still was in prison every day, dealing with the worst people you could imagine. And there were days that I was gonna go home, and they get you at the gate and say, "Nope, you're staying for another 8 hours," and that was not what I wanted to do.
Right.
So, found out there was a shop here in Idaho, and it was for sale. Friends at the Bar 46 Ranch, he had some cows butchered, and the guy that had the shop before us was retiring, and no one was going to take it over. So my brother actually came up here first. He started doing the mobile slaughter.
Did you start with the original owner, or how did you get into it?
So the one that we bought it from, he had the shop for like 5 or 6 years prior to us Hunter buying it. The original guy didn't do the slaughtering. He sold it prior to that, but the guy we bought it from had been slaughtered from him for like 30, 40 years. He wasn't the original one, but he was one of the first to start slaughtered for him.
Okay.
And so, yeah, he came over here, started doing it. I had a family. So for me to just up and leave wasn't necessarily the easiest thing.
I had a dog.
So yeah, he brought his dog up here, and
because you're married, you have 3 kids.
Correct.
You got 1 kid with some special needs.
Yes, and
so that's definitely.
He was actually born after we had the shop, so that's presented new challenges. But
right.
Yeah, we had our daughter and then a son, and she was 5 when we came up here, and our son was 2, and he was born with a cleft lip and palate, so he had his challenges early on in life. Some surgeries. He's all good now, but they were definitely some long nights syringe feeding because he's got a hole in his mouth and lips. So challenges we had to face with him pretty easy compared to this last one.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and running a business, I don't think people understand this, because I run a business, not like you. I don't have any employees or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But you work so much harder owning your own business.
Yes. If I'm not doing it, nobody's doing it.
He thought he got held over to prison.
Yes, I probably work more hours now than I did.
Does it allow you some flexibility, though?
Oh, yeah, because no matter what's going on, I can always leave and come back to what I'm doing. It's the prison, there has to be someone there at all times.
Right.
With this, there are timelines we have to meet, but for the most part, like if the wife called and said, "It's an emergency, I need your help," I can go take care of it, come back. Nothing's gonna go wrong with the short amount of time it takes to fix something.
Right.
So I do have a little bit more flexibility with that side of things.
Or like when with his youngest one, they had to go to Spokane a lot. There was one of the nights that the butcher said he was going to do the smoking, and he decided he wasn't going to do it last second. So he was already in Spokane. I had to go down there, or me and my dad were able to go down there to prison. They were like, "Dude, go home. You don't work here." With the own business, I was able to go in there and
you can fill in. Yeah. Well, and that goes, which we'll cover a lot more in detail, but that goes into the community deal. So you're supporting 2 households. Well, he's single, so we don't. He's.
I got a dog. Take care of some chickens.
Yeah, some chickens, dog. Because you do some fabrication on the side as well. You've got a channel.
Yeah, started welding last year or so. Basically, what happened was I had a slaughter trailer I got rear-ended with. Guy just should have never been on the road, whether it was a sunny day or a snowy day, and basically felt helpless when I couldn't fix my trailer because it required a lot of fabrication to fix it or to build the new one. So I ended up finding a welding class that I wanted to weld for a long time. So I took that last year, and now this 2024, I've started taking it to more of a professional level and actually doing jobs. I've just finished doing a 48-foot deck on a truck, fixing a bucket, building some hay forks for a backhoe. So,
what's the name of your channels? So everybody knows.
Rydder J Fallis or Fallis Fabrication.
Okay, cool. So if you'll follow him on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, he's all over the place. He's a cool dude.
And Rydder's with RYDDER, double D's.
He wants everybody to know that for some.
Oh, if you don't spell it right, you can't find it.
So, going into, so you came up here, no previous experience. You want to be a butcher, or how does that work? What do you have to do to be a butcher?
So,
where does that start?
So you had 2 options. You can either go to school, learn from school, or you can do what we did. We just went hands-on.
Okay.
We didn't have to go take math class or English class. We went and worked with butchers and slaughter people.
Okay. So you apprenticed with a couple of guys.
There were employees that butchered at the shop that I took over, so I got to kind of learn from them to an extent, because I'm taking over a brand new business, moving out of state, so I don't really have a ton of time to just sit there and learn everything, because I got to run the entire thing.
Right.
So a lot of it's just been, there's been days where I've been put in situations where you just got to do it. And I do feel like people just they get scared, especially like just leaving the prison to go do this. Every single person I worked with is telling me how crazy I was, that you're going to leave this job. I mean, we made good money at the prison there. And they're like, you're just going to get
health insurance benefits.
Yeah.
Retired, I'm assuming.
Everything,
Retirement.
yeah. There's retirement, everything. Just giving up, a career on a chance that hopefully this works out. No experience at all. And people would tell me how crazy I am. And a lot of times they would tell me how crazy I am, but they would also say, I wish I could do that. I wish I could step out of my comfort zone and do what I want to do. And I would just tell them, do it. Right. Like, it's not that hard. Yes, I'm walking away from this, but I'm also opening up how many doors and opportunities with this.
Do you think that's the difference between a person that works for the man and a person that's an entrepreneur mindset?
Yes, I feel like anyone can do those things. It's just whether you're willing to step out of that comfort zone.
Because I have my own opinion on that, and because we talked earlier before this all started, we were talking about like what makes the butcher shop a dying breed. What makes butchers a dying breed?
Mainly that you have 4 major companies that have taken over all of the meat industry with Tyson, Cargill, JBS. There's one more, I can't think of it, but they control 85% of the entire meat market.
Right.
And so you have all these other small shops like ours that have closed down because they can't compete. 85% goes to 4 companies. The rest is just kind of left to, there used to be, from what I was told, 20 different butcher shops here in Lewiston prior to all these things. And then once Tyson and JBS take all their share, you got all these little companies fighting for just such a small portion of the pie. And Tyson, they're butchering at their shops. They're doing 3,000 head a day. And we're doing 2 to 3 head a day.
Right.
And you can't compete with those numbers. And they're using
Assembly lines.
Assembly lines. One guy is just his only job is to pull triceps off the beat. That's all he does all day long, and so it's just impossible to compete with those guys, unless you get a little bit more creative with what we offer versus what they offer.
Would it be because, and again, like this goes like the original. Most people, in my opinion, are not designed to own their own business. The reason I say that is most of us, I always equate it to horses. A horse, if you put food and water in one spot, you will never leave that spot.
Mm-hmm.
So like you being at a prison, you had a good job, good money, good benefits. The fact that you left it and most people wouldn't, that's the difference. So as a whole, I've found most people can't own their own business because getting up at 6 a.m. to be to work, to do the job, and then staying late, all that, they don't want to do that. They don't want the responsibility. They want the benefit. They want the flexible schedule, but they don't actually want to be successful at it and work at it.
I also feel like too, though, like the prison had me just comfortable enough that I didn't want to grow or improve myself, because it was like, yeah, I'm not this level, but I am this level here, so I don't really need to better myself.
Well, if you go up a level 2, you restart your seniority, right?
Yeah.
Because did you work in a prison?
I worked in the kitchen for a little bit. Didn't enjoy it. I hated it. But I was at Safeway managing. I had a closing manager shift, possibility of getting my own store, going in that programs. My thing is I just bought a house there. I went and worked out in the morning. I went to work. I had a pretty content schedule. But I didn't like not being able to fix my problems. As an employee, even though I was a closing manager, I was like third in charge of the store. It wasn't enough. I couldn't fix my problems as a corporation.
Right.
That was a big thing for me because I see an issue. I want to fix that issue. I don't want to be like, whatever, not my job.
It's very hard. And I was talking to someone. So like in my industry, like I'm a perfectionist as a whole. You were talking earlier, dying breed and the differences. Like why are farriers a dying breed? There's a lot of horses out there. Why are farriers being harder and harder to find?
Yeah.
And as compared to a butcher, like why you're disappearing. Mm-hmm. You have 4 major companies that control everything.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to pick up everything else that's left, and you're competing with everyone else that's trying to do the same thing. How do you separate yourself from that? We kind of have the same thing in the farrier world. Like, so I started hot shoeing, forging, working towards my CJF. So I think there's barefoot trimmers. There's people that work in the industry that it's good enough.
Yeah.
They don't want to continue their education. They don't want to get better. It's just good enough. Mm-hmm. And then you have those individuals who want to excel. And I think that's the entrepreneur mindset. Yours is a perfect example. I don't know that I could work for anyone anymore because
I don't like the uncertainty of my job.
Right. Well, and I don't know that I could work for someone because if I see a problem in my own world, like I had kind of a bad morning and kind of sucked, but guess what? Like that's on me. If I succeed, it's on me. If I fail, it's on me. So if I want to fix a problem, I have to start with me.
Yes.
It's not like you work in a corporation, you see a problem and they're not going to, it's like, it's somebody else.
Well, and with Safeway, it was a big problem. It was policy. I can't do anything about a person stealing. That's a huge problem. I'm way against theft.
Well, it's livelihood.
Yeah. And I had my job threatened multiple times because they're like, well, you're harassing them. Like, they're stealing from us. That is theft. That is, people go to jail for that. And then, they have a shopping cart full of 900 items. I'm trying to get them for that felony so they could stop coming to the store and stealing it. Because one, they steal from it. They're like, okay, we don't want to deal with it. We're just going to raise the prices to recover a cost. And they're stealing from all the people that come and shop there.
It's the same thing. We see this across the board. Yeah. And again, when we talk about, and I, not to go back to it, but that's how this all started. The dying breed. That's how it all started. I'm looking around, and I'm like, it's not just the jobs that are disappearing. It's the morals. It's the ethics. It's the work ethic.
Yeah,
no one wants to go to work.
No,
and because you struggle with that.
Yes. It's so like if I don't feel good and I don't want to go in, if something doesn't get done, it falls on me still. If one of the employees doesn't feel good, it doesn't matter whether it's not their job to make sure that the ship keeps sailing.
Right.
It'll be there once they're not sick anymore.
Right.
But under me, if it doesn't get done, it falls on me 100%. So even if I don't feel good, I still have to get up and make sure things get done.
Well, you've seen that. You've seen because we've talked a little bit outside. You've had major issues keeping employees.
Yes, luckily I have a good crew now.
You suck it up. You got to suck up a little bit.
I've definitely had I've had employees that call in sick 2 to 3 times a week.
My career broke.
And I don't know how they even pay their bills. I'm like, it's not like once every 6 months you have a few days on. It's like every single week,
Tuesday,
2 to 3 days a week. Like
it's fascinating when you think about it, because like we used to work with a guy and we would literally sit around the shop waiting for him to show up because he was always late. And some days he wouldn't show up, but we'd sit around the shop back when I was farming, and we'd sit around, wait for him. And like, we were kind of emotionally invested in the excuses that he came up with. Like,
yes.
One time it was his dog. He had a male dog and female dog, and they got stuck. And that's why he couldn't make it to work. But,
sounds like their problem.
and I was like, and I'm literally like, I'm like sitting there and I'm like, so do you know what's the thing that happens? I'm like, yeah, like I'm emotionally invested in your drama. Like,
yes. And
Well, like the one employee that was calling out like twice a week,
Yeah.
they were working 4 days a week.
yeah, we were working 4 10s at that point. So
so he's not showing up for but 1 day a week.
yeah,
just
10
about,
hours 10 hours a week. And it's kind of sickening because you're like,
Yeah.
I know at some point
Does that go
You're
back
not
to the
sick
good enough
that much.
mind? It goes to the good enough mindset. I made enough money to cover my bills.
yeah,
There's a lot of people that settle.
And I think, again, that goes back to the entrepreneur mindset, or if you really want to get down to it, the pioneer mindset. I mean, the fact that people left a warm city with food and guaranteed income,
And
to go out on the plains, drive a covered wagon across a plain where it's 110 one day and freezing at night,
get attacked.
to get attacked, to build a farm and a little homestead, just on the off chance that they actually live out to see the old age.
yeah, something might be better.
Just no idea what they're looking for.
Yeah.
But like that mindset, I mean, I think that still drives certain people. But I see a lot of that. I see guys, I mean, we see in the shoeing industry, it's good enough. You'll see guys, like I've talked to some old farriers that were from the 70s, and they'll talk about the fact that you could find any farrier you needed around noon at the bar.
Mhm.
They got just enough money to get booze. It wasn't a profession
Yeah,
as much as it was. And that's changed for sure. Like, especially in the US, because at one time, especially in the Western industry, it's now a profession. But like, you look like butchers, blacksmiths, mechanics, all these industries that we're finding shortages in. Is it because the mindset of the people is it's just good enough?
honestly, I think so. I mean, I fell victim to the just good enough at the prison for quite a while. I worked there for 5 years, and looking back on it, I wish I would have done things a lot differently. I could have definitely either promoted up through the prison system. I could have as much time off as I wanted with shift swaps and stuff. I could have done something on the side, but it was like we had just enough. We were comfortable. We didn't need more.
Well, on that, so when I took those welding classes, I took a aluminum welding class
Right.
out at one of the boat manufacturers here. And the instructor informed us, there's one girl that was in there, and it was me, this girl who was older generation, just wanted to learn to weld, and a gentleman and his 2 kids, farmers. And he was a fire chief. He said, in the polite way to me and the gentleman and the 2 boys, he goes, I would hire you guys right now. And we're just learning aluminum weld. He goes, you guys are putting better welds down than people that work here because they have a good enough weld, and that's all they wanted. They've been here for 15 years, and they just it holds. It's good enough.
And it also comes down to some sort of tragedy to change that mindset. For me at the prison I was at, I enjoyed working there much more than the prison I started at. And once they announced the closure of that prison, it was like, I need to do something else.
Right.
And I mean, it's with everything in life. Usually it takes some sort of tragedy for someone to realize it could be a family member passing. You never know what you have until it's gone. And that's usually what pushes that mindset forward, I believe.
I would agree. I would agree with that because I think, like you said, you never know what you have until it's gone. But also, if you're comfortable where you're at, you have to be uncomfortable at some point.
Yeah.
And then I think to a certain extent, like entrepreneurship, starting your own business, running your own stuff. Like again, I think it's a specific mindset.
Yes.
For sure. It's.
I would be the best employee for someone. I mean,
Usually employees that had
I could show up and do my job and not.
Right.
And having to deal with it on my side of things, being the boss, it's very frustrating because knowing what needs to get done and just doing it, you don't get that from everybody.
No. Well, and again, there's guys out there like that work really well as long as there's someone there telling them what to do.
Yes.
Finding that individual that goes out and finds stuff to do.
very rare.
Another step. Everything is just another step until you get to, I think, the entrepreneurial mindset of they will just get everything. And those are the guys that sadly don't stay very long because they're going to better themselves. And
so homesteading, to move to the next level. Homesteading's become a big thing. Everybody wants to have their own meat, raise their own kids. I saw a meme today and it was 50 years ago, I'm going to move to the city, get a job, closer to work, have more convenience. And now it's I'm going to go out and I'm going to homestead. I think we've discussed this on several, I've discussed it on a couple other episodes. But you have these people and they really don't have a lot of knowledge. So they come out of the city mindset. They're driving their BMW. They go out, they buy 5 acres, they grab a couple of beef and they've got them on there. And then they come to you and the lack of knowledge, misinformation in the butcher world. What's your biggest pet peeve seeing beef come out?
Not fed out properly.
well, that's not even a super issue because I'm not eating the beef. I don't get
Well, I mean, but me at the same point, I'm not eating it, but I still want that person to have a great beef back because, I thought about today. I did a pig butcher, and it's not a good one. And it shot across my mind is
describe what you're seeing.
Well, there's not enough fat on them. People think fat's bad. Animal fat's not bad for you. Seed oil and processed fake fat is deathly. It's terrible for you. But I'll eat my New York. If they have a fat cat this big, I'll eat off all that fat.
Right.
I'm a little heavier because I have a portion problem. It's not and the mac and cheese. But
You're a carb boy.
oh yeah, I love my carbs. And like I said, I have a portion problem. I go to the local restaurant up there. I get a 5x5 burger. People get 2x2s. But they just don't feed them out properly. They don't understand. And people always how do I know? It's there's something called YouTube. You can do a lot of research on that. Or here's the other thing. You might not be able to call someone local to you if they're raising cows and give them information, but if you call someone out of the area, you're not in competition them selling their cow to somebody else. People are willing to help. I mean,
I think my biggest pet peeve with it isn't if because feeding them out that could be based on some people. Grass fed for me is I would rather have a grain fed beef. It's way more flavorful. It's a better overall product in my opinion, but some people love it. So my biggest pet peeve isn't necessarily on how they do what they're doing. It's the lack of knowledge. They just go, I want to be a homesteader and I I think it's good that they just go do things because I think
Again,
how you-
like we discussed
but-
earlier, you
do your proper research before you do those things. Don't just
and also listen to your professionals.
yeah.
Because like I'm not a butcher. I
Yeah.
worked with a butcher when I was a kid. That doesn't make me an expert. I just have some knowledge.
Mhm.
So like when I hang out, like my favorite story was when we sent that.
That old cow.
So like, okay, that old cow, and then do you remember the steer,
Oh yeah, that's
Angus,
yeah.
who was
The bull.
he was a Jersey. Was he a Jersey or was he a?
I don't know. It's ugly.
He was some kind of milk cow.
Mhm.
I think he was a Jersey. I'm pretty sure he was a Jersey. So like I pick him up, I'm looking at him like this is the skinniest cow. Like I got roped into the deal, and I'm like, this is not fed out at all. I'm like 800 pounds on the hoof. And she's like, really? And I was like, he was 802 going across the scale. I was like, I could actually look
With
at
grass
animal
and
and go, yeah, I can look at him and go, that's kind of what their weight is. So you butchered him out.
That was when I met you.
And yeah, and we sent him down to you,
Yes.
and you were like, it looks like an elk hanging on the freaking rack. Like there was no fat on this thing. It was so gamey. Like it tasted gamey.
And typically your grass-fed cows are going to be
Well, then she had to go like rope them and do all sorts of crazy shit
Yeah.
to get them in the trailer.
Well, the guy was hitting him with a taser.
Oh god, like a real taser?
Yeah.
Not like a hot shot?
So like I step out of the truck, I back the truck up to the fence to like load him up. They literally call me. They're like, so I got roped into it with my former landlord. Nice gal. But she's one of those individuals that doesn't have a lot of cattle experience or
Yes.
like cowboying experience. So she's like, I think we should take the horses. I was like, okay. Because he's pretty much wild. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I thought they were grain feeding this.
Shake
Like,
a bucket and walks
yeah.
up
Like,
to you usually when it's great.
grain-fed calves usually are like super like in your pocket. So like I get there, I back up to the gate, I look out at old Angus. And I'm like, man, they're both skinny.
There's this little high head thing.
Yeah. And I'm like, huh. And he's like sitting at the fence eating apples out of the gal's. And I'm like, oh, you don't look wild. And the owner, the wife's there. I feel bad. Like, she just doesn't look country at all. Like, at all. And the dude she's with, her husband, I assume, has high top sneakers on or some shit. Like, the really gangbanger looking sneakers
Like,
that
it's
aren't.
like Back to the Future.
Yeah, and they're not even tied. And I'm like, and I'm kind of like, okay, this is weird. This doesn't look like your normal cattle operation. And about the time I get up, the steer's just standing there calm. I kind of kick the door open. I'm like, huh, we'll just kind of like lead him in. This ain't going to be a big deal. And I hear, and Angus, he takes off up the hill like, screw you.
Yeah.
And I look, and the guy's holding a handheld taser.
I went time to see he
I
zapped that
literally
poor
looked at him. I
cow.
said, what are you doing?
Yeah.
He was
And
walking on the trailer.
And he goes, oh, he gets a little wild. I said, if you hit me with that, I'd get a little wild. And I like literally, I got a bucket and I'm like shaking the bucket. Angus comes down. I like lead him into the trailer and he's about to step in the trailer and the guy's walking behind him. He's doing this, like looking behind him. What? And I'm like, dude, stop. And he's like, I said, stop. And he goes, but I said, let's assume I have the cowboy hat on, that I know what I'm talking about, and you don't.
I didn't buy this in North 40.
Yes, like that is frustrating when you when someone talks to me about butchering, most likely I'm going to be the expert over the majority of people that I'm dealing with.
Right.
But you always get that person that is going to tell you how to do your job better.
I get
Right.
it all the time.
Well, and you guys went out because we talked a little bit like what you've done since you started butchering. Your U.S. I think you're approved.
We're just custom state
in retail.
Okay. Because and you've gone through some training processes and gotten some licensing and things
Yeah.
like that. It's crazy to me. Like, I won't name names, especially in this area, but there's a few butcher shops that like people are like, do not go to that butcher shop because they're
Yes.
nasty.
People still go to them.
Well, luckily it's under new ownership now, so hopefully
Because you guys, I mean, I will say this: I've been in your shop, and again, like I was raised around it. It's clean, you know. I personally like how you can literally sit in the shop and look and see I can see the process going, what
Yes.
you're doing.
We're big on. I mean, our parents owned a gourmet burger truck. I mean, I worked at the prison while I was there. I ran a kitchen. I mean, we're
So
big on-
let's talk about that for a minute, because especially I don't think people understand this. We talked about the 4 major companies that are running,
Yes.
and that there is assembly line, and they're doing 3,000 head a day. There are issues with, like, I don't think people understand that there are issues with how that beef is being processed.
So one of my biggest issues with how they do it is you got guys there that don't care. They're just for a paycheck.
Right.
You know, his butcher's there. They're passionate about it. They like it. They're either from cattle. They
Right.
grow up from the farming. Like one of those, he's big hunter fisher. He loves it there. Those guys at those markets, or not markets, those slaughter facilities and butchering, you know, giant corporation ones.
Right.
They're just there for a paycheck.
Well,
They-
a lot of it is also
Cleanliness.
illegal immigration
Yeah.
because they're cheap labor.
Right.
So a lot of the locals that were working at these big giant corporations,
Got pushed out.
they went on strike, and these big corporations, the first thing they did was hire a bunch of illegals.
So like quality. So burger. I was reading something the other day. Like
about
you're. So when you get buy burger at the store, it can have up to 50 different cows.
More than that.
2,000.
400 to 1,000 different strands of DNA in 1 pound of burger.
Really?
There was a study out
I
of
thought it was 2,000.
no 1,000. There was a study though out of University of Oklahoma, I believe, and they did a study on the 1/4 pound cheeseburger for McDonald's, and they found like 1,400, it was like 1,320 something different strands of DNA in a 1/4 pound cheeseburger from McDonald's.
And let's be honest, 1/4 pound cheeseburger from McDonald's is not a 1/4 pound.
100%. But like, so like people, like we used to have a local butcher shop, or maybe 2 or 3, depending on the size of the area.
Mhm.
You know, this area you were talking about has several butcher shops, and you bought from them.
Yes.
And so those butcher shops employed people in your community. Those people in the community knew who they were supplying, and as a whole gave a shit.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing with his shop. Like we said, those other big corporations do 1,000 plus cows in a pound of burger. When he does his retail burger, he's taking nice select cuts of meat, like he's taking a whole muscle and he's cutting it up and grinding it. At
You're not
most,
getting a bunch of
You're not
tendon.
getting 20,000 or 1,000 different cows into one. He's doing a couple different muscles at a time and grinding it. It's very minimal which cows are. They're hand selected. It's not like, oh, let's throw that in there. I don't know what kind of part of that is, but let's just burn that.
Well, I always call when we were kids. So the guy we worked for, he raised cows. He worked as a mobile slaughter. So we would go over, especially fair time, and help him slaughter stuff.
Yeah.
And he would always joke because he would not eat hot dogs. He called them floor sweepings, which is literally what they are.
Yes.
Like if you go to the bigger corporations, like I saw something where they took like a cut of a hot dog and put it on a slide on a microscope, and you can see stuff moving around in the hot dog, and I'm like, there's no way I'm eating hot dogs anymore.
Yes.
I thought you just did that for fun.
Yeah, no. But yeah,
We don't make hot dogs. We do make sausage links and stuff.
right.
And
We've had your sausage links.
they're very good.
They are very good.
They're hard to. They're hard to keep in stock because people will buy it. I'll make a batch and people will be like, "I'll take everything you have." And I'm like, I just made that batch.
That was supposed to last for a couple days at least.
So price point. We talked a little bit about. So obviously, you're getting a higher quality meat from your local butcher.
Yeah, and that depends on the shop. I personally, because I have been into local butcher shops that they use low quality meats, but you're getting to talk to the person that's right at the counter, so you get a better idea if it's a low quality or high quality. We want to use a high quality meat because if, for one, that's what I would like to feed my family. So if I'm going to eat it, I would. Right. That's what I'm going to sell. And for two, I'm never going to beat Walmart. I'm never going to beat Costco. I'm never going to beat Winco. You're already there shopping. why would you not buy the meat there if it's the same quality that I'm selling? You're already there shopping for everything else. So what's going to stand us apart is we're going to give you a better quality meat that's going to be local. It's going to be, it may not be from like our direct backyard, but it's going to be from this region.
Your people, and that's the thing, because eventually I want to do a whole podcast on this, and I'd like to bring in butchers, farmers, the whole, like everybody, and like get them on one like round table discussion, because 50 years ago, 60 years ago, a big farm was 3,500 acres. I
got 2 acres now. That's a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, think about that. And that 3,500 acre farm, took care of 3 or 4 families. And so you look at your butcher shop, you're employing 2 or 3 employees, you're working as a mobile slaughter site. So like this community, it blows up because people are all making money on that.
Yeah. Well, the ranchers are selling their cows locally to the local people. Like it's all staying right here.
And the money's staying right here.
Yeah.
Everybody here is now making money. So when I buy from you, I know that my money goes to your family and goes to your shop, and then you spend it on people in our area.
Yeah.
And so like it's this big, and so we've lost that as a society because we've got Walmart. So we go down to Walmart, that money goes, and there's people employed at that Walmart 100%.
Yes.
But like the vast majority of that money goes somewhere else. So it's not staying here.
Yeah. And I don't know what the percentage of that dollar spent stays in the employee's pocket, but I bet it's a bigger portion of percentage wise that goes completely elsewhere.
Well, here's the other thing with going to Walmart, going to his shop. Say, okay, like we could buy steaks every day at Walmart. Or like say the custom side where you're going to buy it from him. You go, hey, I don't know any farmers ranchers. Who would you recommend?
Right.
Now you can be informed. The butcher shop's not going to go, hey, use this guy. It's a bad meat. They're going to tell you it's the best customer because they want you to come back every year.
Right.
And if they tell you, their name's on that at that point. Even though they didn't touch the cow, raise the cow, see the cow till after it's dead.
Right.
Their name's on it.
And there's 2 types of butchering that we do. We have the custom side, which is going to be, you're going to buy either a quarter, half, or whole beef.
Right.
And you're going to get, all of your burgers going to be from one cow. All of your steaks going to be from that same cow. All of your roast turkey from the same cow. And then we have the retail, which you're going to buy one steak at a time. You're going to buy one roast. You're going to buy 1 pound of burger. You're not getting the whole big portion of it at once. And it's a little bit more, the custom side is a little bit more upfront. You're going to spend anywhere on a quarter beef, you're going to spend about $750, $800. So it's a lot of money upfront, but you're getting all of your food for all of it now. So in the long run, it is a little bit less money. Where the retail, you're going to pay a little bit more money for it, but you only have to buy 1 steak at a time. You don't have to buy the whole cow.
Right.
And
which works good for some people. Like, I'm not a person who brings something out of my freezer. I'm a 1 steak kind of guy going to the store buying it that night.
Right.
If I bought a quarter cow, it doesn't work for me. I'm not good at that. I'm terrible. I will pull something out and I'll be like halfway through the day, I'm like, I'm making mac and cheese for tonight.
Well, and I think that, obviously, family compared to single. When I was single, I was the same way. I didn't eat. One of my biggest problems is I didn't eat good. It was like, I'm going by the gas station. Guess I'm having gas station food for the night.
Well, yeah, because my wife
gas stations.
I'd wait till they're about ready to close and go in and get how much off for everything in the case and take it home.
Sir, that's been in there for 6 hours. We can't sell it to you. I'll give you $5 extra.
Give it to me. I'll never forget. So
just sit outside the dumpster.
Well, it's really inconvenient to be single because my wife and kids are out of town.
I know,
right
it's
now.
Super inconvenient.
Not for me. I ate the whole
for me to go out and eat right now. I've cooked. When they first left, I cooked predominantly for every single meal.
Right.
But when I would go to the store to buy stuff to eat.
Right.
I'm like, well, I have leftovers for 3 days now.
Yeah.
And
you're not used to cooking small portions.
Since they've been gone for a while now, I've eaten out a little bit more, and it's so much more convenient because I'm ordering for just my I'm not when you start to cook, it's like
it is inconvenient to cook for one person because you're like,
Well,
I'm going to cook for one, I might as well cook for four.
And I don't mean to be like, this is going to sound super, like, I'm sure I'll get some hate on this comment, but like, I never cooked for myself because you get off
The
work,
gas station was over there.
you drive home and you're freaking tired. You worked all day.
Well, especially the type of work you do.
Yeah, like the last thing you want to do is like go cook over a hot stove. Now I got married. I got very lucky. I got a woman that cooks very well.
Yes.
And so like you come home and she like puts that hot plate of food right for you, and you're like sitting there looking, you're like, I got
Is this for me?
Yes.
But like the gas station food, man, like
When you're single, it is good. But as soon as you're not
So bad
single,
for
it's
you,
not
so
good anymore.
Hey, those chimichangas though?
oh,
Oh god.
Once you get married and you have real food, it's not that
I
good.
make real food for myself.
have you found this to be true? Because when I was like, I'd say my wife ruined me. So I used to eat super unhealthy gas station food. Like I ate gas station food out of Weep, Idaho. Okay.
Oh god.
Like I was like, roll the dice. We're gonna have explosive diarrhea today. Like, you know,
Is a
like,
heart attack in my future?
yeah, like probably. So like I'd eat like that, right? My wife cooks super healthy, uses the really natural oils, doesn't fry anything, blah blah blah. I like try to go eat gas station food or sit
Now,
down,
thank you.
and now I'm like.
There is no roll of the dice.
And I'm like, now it's not even a dice. It's like I'm going to regret my life decisions.
Yes, it's a flip of the coin with.
And Ryder's over here like, what are you on?
I don't really eat gas station food that often. It's not good for you. I have mac and cheese with jalapeno cheddar sausage.
That jalapeno cheddar sausage ain't bad.
Let's put in your mac and cheese.
He likes sausages.
Big ones.
Like Stitch. Anyway.
It's sketch.
Oh, it's sketch?
Yes.
Perfect. See how much I'm up on things? So let's hit a little bit. I wanted to hit this. So we, grass-fed, corn-fed, non-GMO. Because people go, what beef is more healthy? They're like, well, grass-fed's more healthy. And I don't know that that's...
Well, I will say it probably is more healthy. It's the most natural form of beef you can have. But it is probably more healthy. But I don't necessarily believe it's like
Make or break.
yeah, I don't think it's so much more healthy. I don't think grain-fed beef is so much unhealthy that it's like
Right.
worth the.
My biggest thing on it is if you were telling me grass fed's more healthy than grain, I would eat grass fed and I'd be like, well, I'm going back to the mac and cheese.
Right.
I'm going to eat the processed fake stuff because that to me doesn't taste very good.
Right.
Or the grain, the cow processed the unhealthy grain, what you want to call it. I'm not processing it. I'm processing beef.
Well, what's weird to me is like, so I eat elk and deer, and as a whole, deer I burger it mostly because deer steaks to me are like not my favorite. But I've had buffalo, which is primarily all grass, no grain.
Yeah.
But
I
they
don't
don't seem gamey to me.
They don't.
Because they're not used to the grain-fed buffalo. It was like deer and elk. They're not. I mean, some of them are corn-fed, I think, but
Well, when we were in Illinois, they were for sure corn fed.
Yeah.
Because they live in the cornfield. But again, as a whole, like I've ate moose and buffalo, and they don't taste gamey to me. Like I can tell, like a muley buck tastes gamey as shit.
I think
Like,
Yes.
some of it is how they when they. Because
Well,
we
it's
don't do
also-
wild game because some of those guys don't know how to process it.
agreed. I mean,
But it also depends on where you're, because I've had deer that are awful and you might as well as throw them away.
yeah.
And I've had the same breed of deer and it's delicious, but they were
I think again,
hunted in different areas and here they're eating sagebrush and here
Right.
they're not.
but and I do think I mean 100% where they're raised determines how like you get a muley buck off the canyon side and you shoot him and he runs for 300 yards. It definitely affects the flavor of the meat.
Yeah.
But like as a whole, like just to me, I've ate a lot of deer, processed different ways. I've shot them dead, dropped right where they're at, processed them out right there in the back of the truck, right to the butcher shop, right into the cooler.
Mhm.
To me, though, I mean they're not gamey, but I can still taste it. You have to marinate them. You have to prepare them different. But like buffalo and moose, I haven't found that to be the case. Like I've had several different,
Yeah.
you know, and I haven't found them to be gamey. They just don't have the same flavor.
I don't know much about. I mean, they're all eating the same thing, I'm assuming.
Right, and I mean that's kind of the thing. Like as a whole, like you take it, you take a quote unquote sample size, if you will, and like buffalo. So I'd go like my theory is deer, elk, buffalo, and moose are kind of interchangeable. Moose and buffalo. That would be what I would eat
Yeah.
in order, lowest to highest. Whereas when I get a cow, like a cow that's corn fed, or one that's been, and not even corn. I don't think people we were
Just
talking
grain.
about this, grain fed. So when people go to the store and they buy a grain fed or a grass fed, when they go to the store and it's like grass fed beef and they buy it and they take it home.
The problem with that is the requirements on labeling are very
Not there.
vague.
Right.
So unless it were to say like 100% grass fed, grass finished, or if it just says grass fed, all beef are grass fed. There's no beef that's not grass fed. That's what they eat.
Well,
for
like
the majority of their lives.
the burger.
Yeah.
If you see a bunch of white, like the colors of your burger,
Mhm.
if you see a grass fed burger that has a bunch of fat in it,
It's probably not grass fed.
probably not grass fed. Or it's had additives, because I don't think people understand that. Like our deer burger, we usually add tallow to it.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is not usually grass-fed tallow.
No.
Usually it's grain-fed tallow because
Yeah.
Grass-fed tallow
You need
is
some
shit.
fat on there for
Well,
tallow.
that old cow that we shot.
Oh yeah, so that was another misinformation. The guy called me up. It was last year during right before 4th of July. It was like Friday. He called me up. Hey, I had a beef. I'm gonna bring it on Monday. And I said, well, hold on, are you on the schedule? He goes, nope, I'll bring it on Monday. I'm like, what do you mean bring it in? Because at his shop, there's no kill facility. I do the mobile slaughter at different places. I do the slaughtering, and he goes, I was just gonna bring it in. I'm like, well, we can't accept a non-licensed slaughter kill. I can either have you take it to the sale yard, I can come out there. So he bought this cow, was told it was 2.5 years old. I came out here because apparently you had a mutual friend with the guy.
Yeah, the guy called me. He's like, hey, man, my buddy's got this cow. He's in a bind. Can you keep him at your place for a couple days? I was like, don't give a shit. Sure.
So I come out, you show me where it's at, drop him.
And we were under the impression that it was a 2.5 year. He told me, and I'm looking at this young cow, I'm like, it's a 2.5-year-old cow.
Because I didn't think much of it. I just thought, I was like, he bought this cow from somebody.
It looks kind of skinny,
It's a little
but it's
rough
off the
looking.
Salmon River. Who gives
Yeah.
a shit? Like, Salmon River cows are kind of skinny.
Yeah.
And he goes, you should check all the side poles, dumb down, because you can check by the teeth.
Yeah.
Because you have the bigger teeth as they come in, and they get full set for
Right.
like 7-6 years old. His teeth were gone.
Completely wore out.
Popcorn teeth is what they call it, popcorn out.
Yeah.
That means it's like 18 years old, 20 years old. It's gonna end up dying because it can't chew grass anymore. It's that old.
He called me to go over a cut sheet and said, what can we do? And I said, you can make a burger out of this thing.
Because it was yellow.
Yes.
It was so disgusting.
Yes. And it's happened a few times. And people are usually a little irritated. And nothing I did, but
Yeah.
they're like, I wanted steaks. Like,
Your cow weighs
cut you steaks.
Your cow weighs
But
134 pounds.
I'm going to tell you they're going to be the worst steaks you've ever had. The only thing that is going to be salvageable is making everything in a burger. And that's not necessarily what someone wants to
you
do.
you usually add fat to those cows, because like when that was hanging on the rack,
Ooh,
it was
so
we don't
completely
because
yellow.
illegal.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're not.
really?
Unless they provide their own fat, we can't add it because it's a custom slaughter. I can't take fat off of customer A's beef and put it in customer B's because it's
I could buy fat that's USDA certified.
Okay.
Then most people don't
Because
want
I usually buy from someone
to.
some kind of, usually pork.
Yeah.
I usually buy some pork fat, because pork as a whole, if it's a well finished pork,
we've had
you've got-
people bring it in because they had a skinny cow and they're like, oh, I'm coming back with some pork fat because
like it's gonna taste like
they
shit.
saw they went, "Ew, I didn't want to butcher this thing, but it like broke its leg.
Well,
or-
and it's when it's got no fat. Like fat's what glues the meat together. So there is such a thing as meat glue, but
Yeah.
if you don't have fat, like to make a hamburger patty, it's
Doesn't
never gonna
stick.
work. Yeah, it's gonna just shred and crumble and
That's why you use, like, when we were making, like,
That's why you feed grain.
we ate deer and elk almost exclusively as kids. Like, it was a treat to get these.
yeah.
because we were kind of raised quote unquote poor.
Mhm.
And so we filled our freezer every year hunting.
Yeah.
And so mom would make meatloaf, and she put eggs in it to make it stick together.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Because otherwise,
It just
crumbles
and falls.
falls apart.
We're having beef crumble tonight.
So like, and it's kind of funny because I think, again, this goes back to the homesteading and the misinformation and how people want to live that life. But like that, how he got taken. Like, I feel bad for the
Oh yeah, I felt terrible for him. But I told him, hey, next time if you're gonna buy beef, call us, because once you call me and ask me to beef, I'm telling you who the best rancher to go to buy it from.
We're not gonna talk
because
bad about
my
them,
name
but-
is on the line. If I say
But you're not
beef-
going to mention the ones you don't like.
yeah, because
Yeah,
I
I'm not
say
gonna say don't buy from this person,
Yeah.
but I will say
Who to
I
buy
would
from.
buy from this person.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I don't want to bad talk someone.
Right.
Because I don't think, and certain, every situation is different, but I don't necessarily feel like
some people.
he may not have sold that cow in ill intent. He may have
I think that
thought.
He made that.
Yeah, and
So out of curiosity,
He told the guy it was 2.5 years. That one was not a good one.
that was definitely I
that
literally,
guy
like,
probably
yeah.
knew, but
out of curiosity, so because that cow reminded me of this, there are rules as to what cuts you can take if they're older.
you just can't have everything on the spinal cord. You can still have all the same cuts to an extent. We might have to come a little bit differently, but you just can't have the spinal cord column.
So instead of rib steak, you get a ribeye. Bones.
Yeah, you can't get T-bones, but you
New
can
York
get a New
tenderloin.
York and a tenderloin. It's still it's still the same steaks. They're just
Just cut
separated
different.
now. Yeah.
Okay.
In my personal opinion on the bone is less the marrow bone. No, I don't need that bone. In my
I
steak.
was watching you guys cook the marrow bones. I've always wanted to try
They
that.
are so good.
Are they good? So right here, yeah. So like the thing is, the homesteading thing, people need more education, and the best way to do that is go to your local butcher, talk to them, stop trying to do it like to a certain, because this is the thing. Like, I'm a firm believer in this. I'm not going to go out and learn how to butcher.
Yeah.
Even though I kind of know a little bit about it,
Yeah.
I'm going to leave that to you as a professional, just like you're not going to go out and go, I'm going to go trim horses.
Yes. And
You're
there's
not doing
certain
tomorrow?
things.
I'm going to trim horses.
Oh, perfect. I want to see this. I want pictures.
There's certain times where like I do think it's good for people to go out and do something, and even though they don't have the skill to do it, just go do it because it's the only way you're going to learn a skill. But there are times where like let the professional do it. Like I'm not a farrier. If I had a horse and it was just something that it was a hobby, maybe I might play with it myself and see if I can do it and learn and become better at it. But if it's something that I need done because that's going to feed my family for the next year, I'm going to let the professionals do it because this needs to be done right.
Well, here's like something on that with the slaughtering. I go to some people's houses and it is a cluster. And they have it not set up. And they tell me, well, I could do this myself. I said, okay, we're in a highly populated area. We're in town. For one, you can't do that. You get a felony. I get a pass because I have the licensing and all the stuff. What happens if you shoot that cow and it doesn't die? Because sometimes perfect shots don't drop them.
Yeah.
What are you going to do then? Are you going to freeze? Are you going to get another round in before it goes through the fence and now is on Main Street running through town with a bullet hole in his head going crazy? The $175, worth it. Because I'm going to make sure it's done right. I'm going to make sure it goes to the shop and dropped off in a proper, timely manner.
Well, and again, this goes back to the common sense side. Because I see this all the time. We have very similar, because you'll drive into people's place and you get there and you can almost make a guess on how bad your day is going to be just so you drive in the driveway, because you like look around and you're like, okay, so they've made fence out of pallets. Perfect. The barbed wire is sagging from the animals reaching over to eat grass on the other
My
side.
favorite is, I'm a firm believer that drill stem fences are only fences to hold a cow in.
Which is?
Drill stem, drill pipe, drill stem.
Oh, yeah.
So I had people ask me, well, what kind of fence should you build? I'm like, well, I would do drill stem. I'd probably do 8+ feet tall. I'll see about doing railroad tie. I've seen cows headbutt railroad tie, take down a whole section of fence.
I don't
because
think
I
people
showed up.
realize how big
It's
an
a small
animal they are. They are.
So when we chase buffalo,
Yeah.
like people don't understand. So like they're like they have telephone poles stuck as corner posts,
Yeah.
and then steel, and then they use a dozer to move the buffalo up and down the freaking alleyway,
Yeah.
right? So one of my other clients, she worked over in Australia. They had what they call slick Mickeys. It's our version of Mavericks.
Oh, okay, like
So unbranded cattle that are out in the. So she was working on the stations, and out there they have the trains come in, they load the cattle on the trains. That's pretty much how they get around
Okay.
in the Aussie outback. So she was telling me this story about how she's working on a station, which is our version of a ranch, and she's at the train station. It's late at night, and
it's all in Yellowstone.
yeah,
I'd be at the train station.
no. But anyways, they're like the train station, and they take rails and they stick them in the ground and then weld other rails to them to make the fence.
Yeah.
That's how they make the fence. And she goes, those cattle were hitting the fence and just ringing. Like they're hitting, and these things are wild as hell, and they're just hitting that fence. And I mean, they're 10 feet, 12 feet tall.
Yeah.
And I've seen cows, and Scottish Highlanders
They're like
are
gazelles.
freaking worse.
They just whoop, right over and they just take off running. You're like,
People, whenever
I
they
drove 2 hours for this today.
I want a Scottish Highland. They're still cute. They got long fur.
They are pretty cute.
Well, my other problem.
I wouldn't go that far because I've chased the little bastards all over the
The
place.
problem is they want them as cute little animals. Have you skinned one? Their hair is just freaking long. It's okay. You're gonna have hair in her beef. Sorry to break it to
It's
you.
kind of like when you see one of them long-haired dogs that looks pretty beefy, and then they shave him, and he looks like a poodle. Like he's just walking around. I remember 2 or 3 years ago we were chasing. So back up 10 years ago, I was working for an outfit, and they had like 8 Scottish Highlanders, and these Scottish Highlanders.
They had them 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Man.
No, they
just
just
before the times.
I know. They were like kind of on the cutting edge. Like they're like, we're going to have Scottish Highlanders. So they have these Scottish Highlanders, and they have the Scottish Highland Bull. 6-foot horns.
That's big for
Massive. Big old, maybe he might have been crossed, but I mean, he had big old, purebred Scottish with big old horns on him. And panels, he'd pick them up and just take off. And they had boarded fence. He'd take his horns and hook them in the boards and pry the boards off and then go through them.
That's the worst one. When a cow has horns, they know they have horns and not use them.
And and barbed wire was a suggestion. And he was chasing.
That's a
suggestion
for every cow.
Right. So like he goes through the barbed wire, and like, so I was farming in his harvest season. It got to the point that every Thursday I didn't even get ready for work. I went and saddled my horse, left it in the corral because I was working for the guy farming that owned the cattle. I would just go tie my horse in the round pen. And like I'm supposed to be picked up at 7, and I'd be sitting there like 7:02. You want to grab your horse? And so he loved Scott. He didn't like Scottish Highland women apparently. He was like over it. He wanted Angus. He wanted some big black booty, I think, is what he was looking for.
The thing on it is the breed of the cow, in my opinion, does not matter. It's how you feed it. There's some, like with the Wagyu, you have a better genetic to start with.
Right.
But I've seen Longhorns marble out way better than most people's Angus. I've seen Angus that are like, oh my God, you're going to eat that?
Right.
But nothing tops Wagyu.
Yeah, well, Wagyu's
I
number
agree.
one, but
Wagyu, the genetics on Wagyu, bad Wagyu steak is better.
just because it's Wagyu, you still have to feed it.
Oh, I agree.
I've seen some Wagyu, I'm like, oh my God, that was a deer. Because like you realize you have to feed it still. Like you had you started with concrete and you ended up with gravel.
Oof. As a whole, and I think so. Like that's the thing. Like Scottish Highlanders are supposedly more lean, and more like a buffalo.
Okay,
Is what I was told when they were raising them.
I can't remember. I butchered a few. They're pain.
The crazy thing is that bull that I was chasing,
Yeah.
and like he was so worst one I've ever seen. Fast forward 9 years, I get a call from a client. She's like, "Do you know anybody that wants to could come round up our cows?" And I was like, "Where are they?" And she goes, "That's the trouble. We don't know." And I'm like, "Okay." Like she's like, "They've been missing for 3 days. We don't know where they went." And I'm like, "I don't want to do this." And I'm like, "I'll man up. I'll go do it." So like I get this horse, I get saddled up,
These things were so wild that I'm a quarter of a mile away on the ridge looking down, see them, they spot me and take off. And they're Scottish Highlanders.
Yeah. They go anywhere.
We get them up, I get them around, we're coming down towards the fence. It's actually like one of my wife's like bosses.
Mm-hmm.
And I like radio her and I'm like, do you have the truck in the road? Because we're going to be going by the house, and if your truck's in the road, they're not going to stop them, but it might make them pause long enough to like look at the gate and go in.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I'm just coming out the door. And I was like, put an F and hustle on it.
Yeah.
And I really don't talk to people like clients, especially that way. And they went in, they didn't even go through the gate. They went right through the fence and then decided they didn't like that pasture, went right through the fence again into the other pasture. I'm like, they're not going to stay. Come to find out, that was that bull's daughter.
Shocker.
But that's the thing. Like people, like we've got some people locally that are running hot wire with cows.
Mm-hmm.
It's a suggestion.
It's a suggestion, and not even that some days.
I watched one hit the hot wire. It sparked, and the old spark went out, and it went right through it. And that's when I was learning the slaughter. I was like, "Ooh, that's not good."
So
Like
like,
town right now.
and again, I think that's the thing. Like these people, they have them on a little acre of ground. They're not feeding them enough.
Well, so here's one thing. So I just bought 2 acres. Everybody's wanting to get cows.
But
I have 2 acres.
2 acres is
What do you mean I want to get cows?
especially in this area.
You mean like when I wanted to spend money and put feed on the ground every day for them with bales?
And the thing is,
Yeah.
we're not irrigated.
Yeah.
Like one of the largest, I think it might be the largest, but at least one of the largest cow ranches in the world is in Hawaii.
Yes.
And people go, well, how does that work? They don't have acreage.
Yeah.
Well, they don't need acreage. They have an ecosystem
That supports it.
that
Yeah.
supports.
Which I think our ecosystem here supports a good amount of cattle, but not enough.
Well, you're
yeah.
talking 10 or 15 acres
Yeah, at least.
in good country.
At
On the
least.
Salmon River, it's like 30 to 40 acres a cow.
Yeah. That, and usually the homesteader wants to do
They want
a little bit of everything,
Yeah.
and there's not.
They don't get good at anything because
Yeah.
they want to do it. Yeah.
You get.
I
Well,
tried
it's,
sourdough once.
and it's like the packaging, the grass-fed thing, it's been marketed that way. So we have people out there that are literally going, well, grass-fed's the healthiest, grass-fed's the best because it's marketed that way.
Yeah.
It's a misconception. And so your homesteader who doesn't know any better goes out and is like, well, I'm going to grass-fed my beef because that's what everybody says.
And then they get their beef back and they're like, this doesn't taste good. And then they blame me.
Yeah, and it's like your fault because
Yeah.
It is funny because I've seen it multiple times where I've gone out there. They started it out. We butchered it. It was not a good beef. It was grass fed, kind of lean. The next time we got there, that thing is fat. They realized, oh my God, that was awful. Let's get the grain of this thing. Because they asked me, well, what can I do different? Oh, 30 pounds of grain by the day I'm butchering it, for these 3 months. And that thing will be fat.
And
Without
you
a chance.
don't have to go full if you
No,
don't
you
want
don't.
to go that way.
Yeah, you don't have to go for prime.
Yeah.
But you can at least get some marbling on there.
Yeah.
And fat really does add to the flavor.
Oh,
Yeah.
it is flavor.
So we can, again, I want to hit this too, the global climate. We hear a lot of things these days, and again, another misconception that the beef industry is causing climate change and that it's bad for the environment and blah, blah, blah. And again, another misconception because so you have your homesteader, but then you have your people in the cities that actually have no clue.
When
I went to the store.
Yeah. There are people who think that beef are just grown in the store. And
Yeah,
they're
So when I worked
not.
at Safeway, someone asked for a pork product. It was like, I think it was pork ribs. We had a special one. I never worked in the butcher shop there. I was management, so I'm all over the store, going wherever. Go, hey, you guys are out of these pork. Can I get some more? I said, I think we're out. I'll go check with the butcher. And I go in there and I look. They go, oh, we don't have it. He goes, well, why can't you guys just make some more? I'm like, because pigs aren't in the shop. They're out in the farm fields. No, you guys, I know you guys make it back there. We make pork ribs in the back of Safeway.
We may cut them, but we
Yeah.
don't make them.
Like, we don't even cut those. There's some pre.
And honestly, the impact of beef over other forms of food source.
Yeah.
Beef is a very low impact food source.
Yeah.
High protein, but low impact on the environment as a whole.
Oh, yeah.
Farming has a far bigger impact on the local ecosystem than raising beef does.
Yeah, you're not running all the machinery for beef. I mean, it's
Well, think of the machinery, the cost to make those tires, this, that, all. I mean, there's some beef. You can kind of get with just a horse. You don't really
Right.
need a truck and trailer. It's a smart thing to have.
Right.
But like the farming, there is so much more into it than that.
And I'm not picking on farming. I'm not saying quit farming, but I'm
well, you need a little bit of everything.
I do. But I see
Right.
I see a lot of hate recently, especially online, on the ranching and the cattle industry. And farming. They pick on them all, but like I've seen it lately, I guess, on
The
the
only thing
cattle
they
side.
don't pick on is the lab grown stuff.
Yeah.
What the heck is that all about? Like that sketches me out.
Yeah. Like,
Well, because the lab grown's worse because you had to go farm to get the soybean and all the soy stuff.
well,
you had to do all that
who
stuff.
knows what they're doing to create it?
Yeah.
Right.
It's, I mean,
And the
I
lab
don't want to eat anything
I
that's lab grown.
Well, and I think, and that's the other thing is like your local farmer that's creating. Okay, so again, something we should hit on because we talked about it prior to this. American beef is a scam.
Yes, yeah, it's probably the biggest scam in the beef industry. I mean, JVS, I believe, is the one that's located in. That's where their headquarters is, Brazil, and we ship a lot of beef in from Brazil. And because we package it in America, it is now American beef on the label. There is nothing American about it except for we packaged it and transported it in America. That's the only thing American is. It was packaged and transported.
Cool.
Yet they can put that label on there.
Yeah.
Saying it's American.
The other thing too is a lot of our American beef and our American crops get sold out of country.
Right.
And then we pennies on the dollar, and then we go. So we sold that. Say we sold the beef for $1 a pound. We buy it back for $3 a pound from some, foreign country beef. We don't know how it's raised or regulated.
Well, and it's extremely scary because I know, like, people worry about GMO. Most people don't understand GMO. They don't understand how it works. Like, if you cross two plants, like if you take one wheat and another wheat and you cross-pollinate and you get a different wheat, that's GMO.
Mm-hmm.
Even though that's a pretty natural process and happens naturally in the wild, if you have two fields of wheat and on the edge, they'll cross-pollinate.
Yeah, because the wind.
Yeah,
birds,
like as a whole, it's not really that big of a process. But they've scared the American public, like GMO beef, non-GMO, like non-GMO chicken. There is no such thing as a non-GMO chicken.
Yeah.
The chickens don't have GMO. They've never been genetically modified. But on the packaging, they say, well, it's non-GMO chicken. Well, yeah, it is.
And it's more expensive.
It's more expensive, and it's a packaging trick.
Yeah.
They're 100% right. There's no GMOs in that chicken because there isn't any GMOs in any chicken.
Yes.
But people don't do any research in that industry.
The other thing we get questioned a lot, and I can't think of what the vaccine is. They always ask us, does the beef have this vaccine?
Blackleg or
No, the
No.
mRNA.
Yeah, M1RA or MR, what was it?
mRNA.
And it's like a vaccine is supposed to change genetics, but no one's doing that. No ranchers putting that.
not in this
in
country.
our country. Other countries they could be, and that's the problem when you go to the grocery store. You don't know where your beef's coming from.
Well, that's like when we looked at that's the thing. If you look at American ranchers as a whole, their only interest is turning out a quality beef product, making enough money to support their family. When that beef leaves their ranch and then it goes to you, your only interest is making a quality beef product.
Yeah.
Because your family eats it, your friend's family eat it. That's your interest. When you have a big corporation, not that big corporations are bad, but you have 1,000 head of cattle or 3,000 head or however many head a day going through your processing plant.
One bad one ruins all of them.
And then we wonder why our food sources, we've really destroyed our quality.
Oh yeah. Well, and if you go to the store and you buy a steak and it's not a good steak, the big corporation doesn't care. But if you were, if someone bought a cow from one of the local ranchers and it didn't turn out well, you get to go to that person and say, hey,
This didn't turn out well. What happened?
And now, depending on the person, maybe they'll make it right. Maybe there's nothing they add. But at least there's some accountability. I'm never going to serve something to someone that I feel like is going to come back to me.
Right.
I don't want them to come and be like, well, you sold me this and it's awful. I don't want that ever to happen. So that's why we want to serve the best quality product. That way, so they come back and say it's the best thing.
Down cows is a problem. So if a cow goes down, cannot walk on its own, they start a process where they're basically killing themselves.
Right.
You're not supposed to butcher it. It is illegal to butcher it. Some of the bigger corporations or shops like that, they don't care. They just do it and get it done. We had a different slaughter guy. He brought one in. We didn't know. Just looked like a pretty nasty cow. Just looked old. Butchers cut into it. Instantly, we got some signs. Hey, there's nothing wrong. So we called the shop or the customer or the rancher. He goes, yeah, I was like 18 years old and it was down. So-and-so said it should be fine. We instantly said, hey, we are not cutting this. We have two options for you. You can come pick this beef up or we can put it in the dumpster. It's not safe to eat. That's the kind of quality you get with a custom shop because at the end of the day,
it's not. And think about that beef in a big area,
yeah.
in a big market.
That doesn't get skipped.
There's 1,000 something cows in one burger.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All it takes is one bad cow to ruin that 1,000 cow burger.
So we'll wrap it up here. Price quality comparison. Like, let's talk about, so people understand, going from, okay, what does it cost to buy a steak at your place? Because we did this the other day. I bought Wagyu from you, and I was like, holy crap, I'm actually saving money buying from you rather than going to the local store and buying meat.
Well, and that's part of...
Not to mention the quality.
And that's not necessarily going to be every custom butcher shop, but I don't feel right charging... I got to make money, but...
Right.
I'm also not going to screw someone over just because I want to make an extra $10 on a steak.
Right.
So I do think it comes down to the individual that runs the shop, how much they're wanting to charge, and supply and demand on everything's going to change that. So I don't think that's necessarily just for, your custom versus your big corporation, but I mean, the big corporation, they are all about making money.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, I want to make as much money as I can possibly make, but I also want you to go home and want to come back. I feel like it's got a bigger benefit to me in the long run if you want to come and shop with us, because you're going to get a better quality, you're going to get a better price, you're going to get...
So worst case scenario, I buy T-bones.
Mm-hmm.
I buy T-bones from you, which I have. And I buy T-bones from Rosars. Let's pick on Rosars. What do you think? I mean, I'm not up on that. I think Rosars, I buy Wagyu mostly, to be honest. Wagyu.
So ribeyes, I looked the other day, and some of the shops around here, like grocery stores, more expensive by $1 to $2 than his. Okay. Marbling was, everybody's ready as a Dr. Pepper can with none of the white.
Interesting.
Not like a good red, but like kind of a darker red.
Right.
Where, just because the grocery store could be cheaper doesn't mean you're getting a better steak.
Right. Well, most of the time you're probably not.
And sometimes the grocery store is actually more expensive than your local butcher shop, and you're still getting a worse steak.
And less, like, I've gone in and bought steaks from, like, I used to go buy once in a while when we were kids. Mom would buy Winco steaks because it was cheap.
I have had some.
Winco has some good steaks.
They do sometimes,
but it's hit and miss.
It's really hit and miss. Like, we'd buy one and it was like best one ever, and then she'd buy another one like 2 or 3 weeks later.
You lost them over,
and I'm like,
yeah.
Well, like when I worked at Safeway, we had a special one. It was choice meat. They ordered prime on accident. So I mean, sometimes you get good stuff there.
What prime? So explain that to people. Prime over.
So the USDA is basically taken beef and categorized it in America into 3 different categories. You got prime, choice, and then select, and then you have no roll. And that's the grading, basically saying prime is going to be the best eating experience, choice is be the second best, and then there's some like you got prime 1, 2, 3, right? But Prime being the best eating experience, and they measure the size of the ribeye, the fat content. I don't know I've never gone to the training for that, but they have a few different measurements on how they come up with that grading, and it's just basically gonna give you what's the best eating experience. But like, there are some people that don't like fatty meats, and so because it says prime, not necessarily going to be something that they would probably like choice or select more than prime. So every person is different, but the majority of people are going to like prime more than select.
Right. Which is why you go to a fancy restaurant, they're probably serving out of the whole mostly prime.
Well, that's the one thing I've had in some other restaurants. It's all about, I want to buy the cheapest steak possible. And I've had an argument with a lot of them and telling them, like, look, you can buy the cheapest steak possible, but people are going to leave your restaurant saying, wow, I should have cooked a steak at home because it would have been much better. Or you pay a little bit more money, you charge a little bit more money, and people are going to leave there going, wow, that was the best steak I've ever had again. And they're going to be back again. They're not going to say, I should have just cooked a steak at home. They enjoyed that meal, so why don't you just serve them the best possible? Now you get into certain like really high-end restaurants, they probably are using a high quality,
Right.
Because
We have one rancher, he makes great beef. I mean, his beef are phenomenal. He told me the other day, he went over hunting in South Dakota, North Dakota, one of the Dakotas, and he said steak for $50 thing. He goes, that steak was freaking phenomenal. He goes, I would buy a $50 steak all day long. I'm telling you, he raises that $50 steak at his own ranch. And he said that he would go to any restaurant in town, pay $50 for steak as long as it was,
As long as it's that quality.
and you go to the restaurants and you get these, like you said, the cheap steak. Because they're like, well, I have to buy the steak for this price per pound or this much. It's like, we're $1 more. But the quality is,
For me, I think my favorite quality steak, like this area, like Jolly Moore's, I know his steak.
I've never been there.
I
It's steak.
I haven't had the steak, but they got good stuff.
I've never had a bad steak there, and that's the other thing. Like people, and we'll probably wrap it up here, but it's amazing to me how many people, when I've ate, come over for a steak, or let's have dinner, or what, and I get there and I'm like, okay, keep your mouth shut, don't say anything, because I may not know, like I know when I see a good steak and I know when I taste a good steak.
Yeah.
But I don't know very much about it between then. The only reason I know that much is because I worked for a guy that worked in the industry, and he'd go, that's a piece of shit. I would never buy that steak.
Yeah.
Well, what's wild is when I moved here and did this, I used to eat steaks from the restaurant and a big burger. And I was like, this stuff is phenomenal. It's great. Now I'm like,
But you don't know what is it we were talking about earlier.
You don't know what you have until it's gone.
Yeah.
Or missing, or
Yeah.
I do have a lot of people that someone said it the other day.
we were looking it up. We went to a restaurant. Him and my dad both ordered the New York steak, and it was like steak bites, sirloins. They cut up sirloins and put it in a bowl. You never know what you go in a restaurant unless you know your actual steak. Sirloins don't have any fat in them. New York's have fat in them, and they have big fat caps on the ends.
Well, you go someplace and have a steak bite, and it's chewy as hell.
Round.
Yep. And then you go other places, you're like, oh, that was pretty good. Like,
So this person messaged me, and they asked me if we had something I didn't have, and her words were, "Thank you." I told her, "No, we don't have it. It's something we maybe in the future, but it was bacon. We don't have the licensing to do bacon yet."
right.
Yeah,
And
we did
so-
custom solder.
She said, "Thank you. You are our go-to meat market, so we checked with you first. Last night, Gary cooked the beef and made a delicious stew. It was the most tender, juicy, flavorful stew we've ever had. Best meat we've had in years." And that a lot of times that's the kind of people that they always tell me is, "This is the best steak I've ever had. This is the best." And it's just the quality of meat is so important. You get exactly what you expect when you buy high quality meat, and it's not like we're not that much more expensive. Some things are more expensive, some things are comparable,
But life is too. I always say this: life is too short to drink bad booze.
yeah.
Like, why would I eat bad steak? Why would I take my hard-earned dollars
and give them to a corporation. Not that I have anything against corporation. I want people to be successful. I know it's not that, but I would rather see you successful because I know you.
Yeah.
And it goes, and the dying breed, we've lost community, we've lost the sense and that community encompasses everything from if I see you broke down, I'll stop and help you.
Yeah.
To I go to you first because you're in my community, you're part of my group of people.
Well, and the people that shop with us and do business with us, when anyone says, hey, like if someone were to come in and say, hey, do you know a farrier in town that can come help us with that? Like, you're the first person I'm gonna say, yeah, go talk to him. I mean, the community. It's about like if you need support, you support us. I'm supporting you. Like,
it's the old, and it's kind of funny because like, and this is and I won't go off on this too much, but so Rydder's helped me out a ton. Like, he's done some welding for me. He's done a lot of stuff. I never ask my friends if it's their business for a discount.
yeah.
I just don't pay what it's worth to you.
Do you know what I'll tell you though? What's the worst part about my job? Whenever anyone invites me over, or I had, you know what they ask me to bring?
Steak.
Yeah.
Funny, I don't know. I never. What are you talking about?
Well, like my thing,
I just at this point, I assume that's what I'm bringing anywhere I go.
I bring over skulls.
Yeah.
What are we doing tonight? Cooking dinner? All right.
I got guts. I just think it's funny because, like, you know, and it is again, like I like tongue.
Tongue's super good.
Not heart, not in that way, but I like tongue.
Beef tongue. Tacos. Tacos CC's.
Tacos. It's amazing to me, like as a culture, like people are like, why would you eat tongue? I'm like, well, because at one time in this country, it was hard to get food.
Yeah.
So you ate everything.
Well,
Here's the other thing. We're Greek. Greeks big on goats and lambs. People are like, oh my god, goat and lambs are disgusting. Like,
I never had goat that I know of.
We did it for Christmas.
So goddamn good.
Was it?
We did it for Easter too.
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah.
So lamb, lamb is hard for me. And maybe it's because
goat way better than lamb.
Yeah.
You think so?
Goat was better than lamb, but if you're gonna do it, go buy those little fair lambs or fair goats.
And that's the other thing.
Because a lot of people don't feed them out enough.
Yeah.
They're really small lambs. And I butchered low-end goats for 40 pounds. So some of those fair ones are like 90, 100 pounds after they're butchered.
And you got some kid that takes care of, like,
Yeah.
they love their animal, they take care of their animal, they feed it correctly. And like my mom doesn't like lamb, but after having the lamb we bought from the fair that was raised with a kid that loved on it and kept it happy its whole life, she was like, that was actually good.
That and that goes again, not to keep harping on this point, but I kind of want to drive it home.
You're already home.
Fair point. But like as a whole, the community, that whole community thing, people don't understand that your goal is to turn out the best meat. Your goal is to take the animal down with least amount of stress. It's all about, like, we want to do right by that animal. Mm-hmm. We want to feed it properly. We want to butcher and slaughter it properly. You don't see that in the larger industries.
No. Well,
So I had one guy tell me he worked in one of the biggest slaughter plants, and like I said, I don't take pop shots. When I pull the trigger, I'm confident that bolt's going to do the job. It's going to get done. Doesn't always work. The world's not perfect. The perfect shots don't always kill him. He said that he had to quit his job because he was doing slaughtering, because he had one guy did die, and the guy jumped down there and like cut his throat and was all celebrating and having a good old time. He's like, I don't want to trigger that guy. The guy had no remorse for the animal, just kind of, it's a life. It's giving up its life for us to eat it.
Right, and you want to honor that. Like, and not that I'm a big Native American. Like, I worked for the tribe for like 5 years. I know, but like I'm not super like fluffy, foo-foo, feely. But I do like, when I worked for the tribe, they're very big on like the Great Spirit, and then, you know, not that that's my way per se, but I like the aspect of it where that animal is giving us life, and so we honor that animal's life.
Yeah.
You know, so that, and that's the thing, that's what you're getting. You're getting, you know, you have the kid that raised it for 4-H, that loved it, took care of it, worked hard, and then you have the person that bought it, and then it comes to you, and you do the best job you can, and then it goes to that family that bought it, and they eat it. Like that whole circle is what makes it beautiful.
Well, the other nice thing about that is with the 4-H loans, we have a lot of people in the area, and that's who I try to buy from. Is people that support lumber. You know, I bought chicken feed that was $25 a pound the other day. I was like, oh my god, I should have gone 40 back to $15. But I haven't seen North 40 at a single fair. They're about the feed I've seen all over the place doing stuff.
Exactly.
And like we have customers, he has multiple dealerships in the area. He buys animals and he gives it to his employees, spreads it out to them. Because not all those guys can afford a customer, you know.
Especially in this economy.
Yeah. I mean, trust me, he takes care of his employees and their
Rogers.
Yeah. Takes care of people.
That's where I get my trucks.
But like
Rogers Dodge.
Yeah. He's giving back to some of those.
Yeah. Dodge. You're obviously smarter than you.
Well, I like Chevy. I want to get the animal back to the butcher shop.
Oh,
but
really? Oh,
I got a Cummins. It's not a Hemi. It's Cummins. So it works.
Okay, the only thing on your truck that's
the engine will last as long as I can drive it to the thing. I don't care if
But
the
be
doors fall
careful.
off.
It is the most uncomfortable ride you've ever been in.
Till 1 ton.
I cannot believe my brother has a 16. I have a 1 ton. He has a 16 1 ton.
But you have it in a front suspension.
True.
Like I saw
I ride mine on like fucking Cadillac, and I get my brother's and like my back's out.
Maybe give you your
It's
place
rough.
up.
My dad always, because I'd been in his truck for quite a while, and my dad always be like, "Oh, you ride his truck, you won't be able to walk afterwards." And I was like, "Oh, my dad's old and whatever." And the first time I rode in his truck, we got on the road. I was like,
Well, the funniest part is
"What happened to this? Is this road always this rough? I didn't. Did they redo something? Because my truck don't feel like this."
my parents live out in Cottonwood, and as you come out of Cottonwood, there's that cement part of the highway where it has those bumps. And my dad has a Toyota. He's nice.
Yeah.
You know, has an 18 or 1793 Texas Toyota, wherever. It rides a pallet. He's gotten that truck the first time, but it's going. Back to driving through there. He goes, "Something wrong with your truck?" I said, "No, this road." He goes, "No."
I drive this road every day, and it don't feel like
It's
this.
like every time. It's the cement.
Well,
I just wanted to add one more thing on the local butcher shop versus like your Walmart, Winco. When you come to the local butcher shop, you're getting what you want. If you walk in there and you're like, "Hey, I cut 2-inch steaks for a guy." That's a big steak.
They were beautiful looking.
When you go to Winco or Walmart, you're not. Whatever is in the case is what you're getting.
Yeah,
You're not gonna get like what you want. You're getting whatever they have, and you're gonna have to settle for what they have. When you come to us or any local butcher shop, they should be able to cut you what you want and give you, they're the experts. If you want, you go in there and say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing." They should be able to put you to the best type of meat, the best cut of meat, just exactly what you need, and utilize those things because
you're going to save money long term doing that because you're going to get what you want.
it's going to turn out.
I mean, I bought like that.
Not to go back to that freaking poor Angus cow.
But like,
That was a fun day. We out there.
We freaking threw it away.
Yeah.
like I'm not even going to give this to the poor. Like I feel for the poor, and they don't need any more shit in their life.
They're being kicked while they're down.
Yeah, like this. It's like I always when people take their old clothes. I'm like, I mean, I get it, but like.
Do they do that with their underwear too, or just
Like that's what I wonder. Like that's what that state. It would be the equivalent of me taking my old underwear to the Goodwill.
Has anyone ever sharpened in this pair of underwear?
Can neither confirm nor deny. Much like
What?
mine.
My last thing on the custom stuff and with 100 retails, we have people that will drive out of the area because they know we have. Because 100 posts a lot online of what he's got on his butcher shop page. They'll come out of the area and be like, "Hey, we want to buy one of your guys' local beef because your guys' ranchers down there raise phenomenal meat from what I've seen."
We have a lot of people come from Seattle, Portland.
We also have, like with his retail, we have people driving up from California to come buy a whole bunch of retail meat because they're like,
We can't get it.
"That looks amazing." Or like my dad went down and bought some stuff. He cooked it while they're there, and they're like, "Oh, I need more of that."
So you're at Heights Butcher Shop
Yes,
in Clarkston, Washington.
correct.
So if anybody after watching this podcast is like, I need some of their meat.
Yeah. Well, he does some videos on there where he, like, Pecana. You know what pecana is?
We're having some tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most people don't know what pecana
We're
is.
also going to have a Terrace Major steak, which is the second most tender muscle on the entire cow. So
It's also the mock tender, right?
yeah, it's the same thing, yeah. And most people, like, that's the other thing, go to your local butcher and they can teach you things that
Right.
you, like, the Terrace Major is a phenomenal cut of meat, and I have never seen it at a grocery store.
Yeah.
It is the second most, the only muscle more tender is the tenderloin. And
So when we get done here, we're going to have a second video for everybody to watch. We'll probably do a little bit of a live here, but we're going to do a video with the meat. You're going to walk us through kind of the process, how we cook it, how it should be cooked. Well, I'm scared because, to be honest with you, like I'm
You're
like
gonna like Hunter's meat in your mouth.
yeah.
Weird. It's just
He's single. He's very and desperate. No.
But so on, like with Hunter Pecana, like Hunter brought, Hunter discovered Pecana. Obviously, it's a Brazilian cut. It's already been discovered, but no one here knew what it was. There's a few people kind of knew. They looked at the grocery store, couldn't find it. He was the first person in the area to bring it up. There's a guy across the street from the butcher shop, has a body shop, does phenomenal work. He came over with the photos. I'm like, those Pecana, you're gonna want that. I sold it to him one time. He comes back and he's like, hey, can you cut me a whole bunch of them? I'm coming over. I sold one of the employee. The employee wanted a pecan. Hunter cut it up, didn't know it. It was sitting there. I sold it. Pecan. He goes, "Where's those pecan?" I'm like, "Oh, Michael bought it." I mean, they once they're cut, I have people that they call and they're like,
we don't have, like, it's like I have a guy today came in and I told him I cut one a few weeks ago. He came in today and he's like, that was the best steak I've ever had. Next time you cut one, I want it. And because I don't cut them all the time because I have to sell a whole sirloin for every pecan I cut. So they're kind of already sold before. Like, I have a few people that are just they're
the beautiful thing about them is I like New Yorks.
Right.
So I like the New York because there's a long fat cap on it.
Right.
I cut them this way. They're really good. I get a piece of fat with everything.
Right.
New Yorks can sometimes have gristle on it depending on what part of it is. That pecan is the same, kind of the same design. None of that gristle. It is pure beautiful.
All right. Well, with that, I'm starting.
it's dinner time.
It's dinner time. But yeah, for sure.
It's hair past what?
A hair pass. I've already been hungry.
Yeah. So I can't appreciate you guys coming on. Can't thank you enough. We're probably going to have to do a follow up to this because I feel like there's stuff we could dive into, like do a little bit more on the cuts and different things. But I appreciate y'all coming on.
One thing I'd like to dive into on Sam is slaughtering. Proper setups for some out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got some stories.
We should.
Awesome.
That would be awesome because
I've had a lot of fight on it. I finally got people to realize that, hey, I'm doing this for the animal, you and me, to be proper.
you mean you're not going to chase it down in the pasture?
You mean like I don't want to like hike through the mud and try to get this poor cow to God?
Well, keeping clean,
Yeah.
keeping your meat clean.
Yeah,
I got no problem with that. No problem. I got cradles for that.
All right, with that, we'll call it a night. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll catch you next time.